I am so excited to speak to our guest today. She's a registered nurse that specializes in aesthetics in the New York City area. Please help me to introduce aesthetic injector Cindy.
Hi,
Hey,
I'm
Cindy.
now Cindy. Hi, everyone.
Hi, my name is Jonathan McLean, and I'm the founder and CEO of McLean Aesthetics.
Welcome to the dark side.
Let's go. Thank you for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So I want to jump right in. Well, tell us, how did you pick an RN career? Like, how did you get started as an RN?
Well, I always knew that I was into the science field. Growing up, being Asian, my parents wanted me to be a doctor. So naturally, that was always kind of what I had set in mind. I was like, okay, be a doctor, be a doctor. However, when I went to college and I started the pre-med track, I realized, okay, well, I also want a life. Like work-life balance are not things that I think that I was taught growing up. But we get to make our own choices as we get older. So I knew I wanted to still stick with the medicine and the sciences, but just without the intensity and like the schooling of what it takes to be a doctor, and even like having a better work-life balance. That's why I chose nursing, because I still want to live a little bit, but that's just my personal choice. So that's how I went about going into nursing.
Nice, nice. But why aesthetics? Tell me why you got into aesthetics. I know it can be, some people might take it very seriously. People might think it's very easy to get in. What was kind of your mindset behind that?
I've always loved aesthetic. I think growing up, beauty has always, like as a girl, like I love makeup, love beauty, really into it. But I never knew that we could combine beauty and medicine. I don't think that this was like an industry that I was really familiar with, um, until after I graduated college. So like as I started seeing more posts and like about on social media from other injectors and plastic surgeons and seeing other women in the industry do it, I was like, wait, I kind of want to do that too. Um, and so I started looking into aesthetic medicine. That's kind of what caught my interest. Um, I think around after I graduated college, like about anywhere from like 5 to 8 years ago is when I really started looking into aesthetic medicine.
Nice, super cool, super cool. And I want to talk about kind of how you got your first job, right, in aesthetic medicine, because it can be very challenging. In a lot of states, RNs can't really inject, but I know in New York you can. How hard was that getting your job, and what was the process of getting your first job?
So that's a funny story because I started getting Botox myself when I was around 25, and I was doing it for like TMJ, facial slimming. And at the time, I couldn't find a lot of doctors that even offered that. I think that this is something that's a little bit more common in like Asian and European countries, but not so much in the US at the time. So my doctor is actually where I work now. I was a regular patient there, and this was before I became a nurse. So after I became a nurse, I kind of just, as when I was there, getting my Botox, just being in the right place, right time, I asked if he needed a nurse. And lucky for me, he kind of did at the time. So that's how I got into the industry.
Super cool, because that usually doesn't happen. People, a lot
Yeah.
of trial and error, hard
Yeah.
times, but yours is kind of more like a relationship that you develop over time,
Right.
almost meant to
Um,
be.
like right place, right time. I feel really lucky and blessed.
Great, great, great. So how did you become confident in kind of picking up your first needle and injecting?
I did a little training in the very beginning when I became a nurse. Um, but a lot of my confidence came from, when I started working at my practice, I learned, I was trained hands-on by our facial plastic surgeon here. He showed me, like anytime he would inject a patient, he would bring me in, he would show me. until I started getting comfortable seeing my own patients. And I started small. Like I started off with like Botox, basic Botox. But at the same time, I was his surgical nurse. So I was in the OR as he was doing face. So basically, I was getting hands-on experience injecting and getting like the anatomical training from just seeing facelift all the time. And just those two things together, the hands-on with like the observation part, things started to click really quickly for me. But definitely there was a bit of a learning curve. I would say that I didn't get comfortable until after maybe 2 years in. It's like everything just clicked. But for a while, I was kind of like treading water, like in a little gray area. And then one day, it's just like one of those things where you just wake up and everything makes sense. And that's kind of how I felt. So I started to feel more confident with the experience. A lot of definitely the hands-on part is important, I think, because you can visualize something and see it, but it's like there's so much muscle memory and there's so much that goes into the physical motions of injecting a patient. Those things I think just come with practice.
Hmm. And that's great. It's almost like, I wouldn't say it's a cadaver course, this person's alive.
Yeah, yeah,
But
basically.
you got
It's really,
that knowledge.
yeah, it's really cool. I would say that I feel like I got this really, like I'm in this really special place where, I get to see underneath the face. It's really incredible.
Nice. Now, being in the New York City market, I'm sure there's so many different types of clientele. What are some trends that you're seeing in that area?
So recent trends, I would say a lot of energy-based device treatments like radio frequency microneedling. I think that overall, I'm seeing a lot of younger patients who are now more educated, starting treatments a lot earlier than patients back in the day. People I think used to start Botox when it was kind of too late, or like, nowadays a lot of our focus is on more prevention. And there's a lot more injections of like biostimulators, a lot of younger patients coming in for baby Botox or like preventative Botox. A lot of patients who are more willing to invest in lasers and resurfacing and all these things that just like tried and true. Like we have photos now, we have so much education out there now. I think the trends are to conclude, like radio frequency microneedling, energy-based device laser resurfacing, injectable biostimulators, baby Botox, and a lot of advanced Botox, I would say, like Nefertiti lift, or like Botox to the shoulders for shoulder slimming. I think those would be like the current trends that I'm seeing in the New York City area.
Interesting, because it's a lot different from what I'm hearing from different areas. So
Yeah.
super cool. How big is the skincare aesthetic treatment combo, like skincare Botox or skincare filler combo important? How important is that?
So the way I like to describe this to my patients is, our bodies are never one size fits all. Like there is never one answer to like, that's gonna be the solution to our problems. Like usually, for example, if you're going to the gym, you can't just use the elliptical and think that that's going to solve all your problems. Like a lot of times it's also diet, it's our lifestyle, it is combination therapy is really key now. Like even if you have high blood pressure, you don't just take medication and think that that's going to give you the best result. We have to consider diet, we have to consider exercise. And I like to explain that to my patients because I want them to think of aesthetic medicine as medicine, but just what we're treating is, the aging face. But, you don't go to your doctor and, your orthopedic doctor and expect like one size fits all. You have to do physical therapy and take meds and like, there's a lot that goes into it. But I think that that's a lot of education that needs to be done because people think of aesthetic medicine as just Botox and fillers, not realizing that it's so much more than that. I think nowadays people are a little bit more open to those combination treatments as we're more educated, and we realize that injectables are great, but a lot of our issues and what we're seeing as we're aging, like the wrinkles and everything, has a lot to do with our skin falling apart. You know, the skin loosening and the skin aging, skin losing collagen, the skin taking years and years of sun damage. That's why those wrinkles are staying, you know? So if you're not treating the skin, injectables are kind of like a Band-Aid, is what I like to tell patients.
Hmm. Is there ever a age too young to start aesthetic treatments?
I do think so. I think I like all my patients to be over 18. Which is hard nowadays, I think, because of social media. A lot of younger age people have so much exposure to this stuff. And I don't think it's fair too, because, you know, there's all these expectations of like looking like celebrities a little bit too early. So I think that I like my patients to, you know, when they come in for treatment, to do it for the right reasons. But I would say I probably wouldn't treat anybody under 18 unless it was for like a very good reason. It would be like a case-by-case situation. It's very rare for me. But of course, they would have to be accompanied by like a guardian parent.
Wow, yeah. No, I can definitely understand that for
Yeah.
sure. Now I see on Instagram and social media, there's so many of these trends where celebrities are coming out with new skincare lines and things of that nature. What is your take on that? Tell me a little bit about your opinion on that.
I think that's just like for all injectors, there's like this general consensus of just celebrity skincare lines. I wouldn't invest in it. I'm mostly evidence-based, science-backed is kind of, you know, as healthcare providers, that's how we always, you know, like to see our treatments and treat our patients. We wouldn't do anything unless it was like tried, tested, backed up by evidence. And with celebrity skincare lines, I think the only thing backing it up are the celebrity faces that are behind it. So that to me isn't enough credibility. I like to look into the science behind it, but I think it's just a huge waste of money.
Yeah.
Packaging might be cute, but that's about it for me.
Yeah. Social media can literally persuade you to do a lot of things. And like you said, there's no evidence behind it. It's just a person behind it.
Right. Which is very influential though, you know, like they can really influence a lot of people. But as a healthcare provider and professional, we like to do things a little bit more evidence-based. At least I can feel good about recommending those things to my patients. You know, it's worked, it's been tested, you know, there's science behind it.
Yeah, for sure. So social media can definitely be used for good and for bad. Tell us a little bit about the good and how has it helped your career?
I think it's actually amazing. You know, it can be amazing in the sense where we are able to reach like a bigger audience and kind of give them some more education and like just to have them see what it's like to get an injectable treatment. So it's almost like we're taking them, you know, they're there with us. And that exposure has helped people, I think, feel a little bit more comfortable about trying something that's so unknown to them. And I think that's really the biggest thing. A lot of people don't do aesthetic treatments because most of the time it's because they're scared. They're like, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to look like botched, or they think that it's going to make them or weird. So I think that with social media, now that we're able to see how there are so many ways we can improve, you know, your face aesthetically or the skin and improve the health of the skin. There are so many things where people are like, wait, you can do that? I want that. I need that. And it kind of helps improve a lot of quality of life once they get a treatment and they're happy with it.
Nice. Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Do most of your patients come from social media, or have you built an audience, you would say, from that? Or
I would say that initially when I first started expecting. A lot of my patients came from post-surgical patients of, that from our practice that had just gotten a facelift, and of course you need to maintain with injectables. But I did start up on social media. It's like a full-time job, so it took a little bit to do, and I feel like that's something I'm still building. But nowadays I'm starting to see a little bit more as I've become like more myself. I feel more comfortable presenting myself in my own way and kind of creating my own brand. I think I'm starting to get like a little bit more of my own patients. So generally on average, the patients that I see, the age gap is like between 30 to 50. But previously, before that, it was a lot of post-surgical patients, like post-facelift patients. So the average there was kind of more like 50 plus. So bringing in a lot of my own patients. So they're usually within that group, that age group.
Oh, nice. Because that's interesting because I don't know necessarily if those type of people would even be on social media. Like, I think 30 is still.
You'd be surprised.
Really?
You'd be surprised, yeah. I think nowadays, most people that come into our office, I think also being in New York City, they're pretty tech savvy.
Okay.
Sometimes they'll send me things and be like, "What do you think about this?" I'm like, "Hyaluron-10, like what are you looking into? Don't do that."
Yeah.
But I do learn a lot from my audience as well, which I do love. There's like creating that community and sharing knowledge and information.
Tell us, like, I'm glad you brought that up. Why is that pen so bad? Tell the audience why.
So for example, the lip, any structure of our face, our body, it's not just like we have to know what's underneath. Like there's different layers, different planes, different cells that make up the lip. So when we inject filler, it's really important to, reason why not everyone can just do this in their basement. You have to have the knowledge to know where that filler is supposed to be placed in order to look natural, to look good. With a needle injection, I'm able to deliver a certain amount of product exactly where I want it. But to have a pen that's just using blunt force trauma to shove it, I mean, to be honest, you're just aiming with like one eye open and just shooting it in there and just kind of hoping for the best result. I just don't see anything amazing coming out of that. I do feel like when I'm treating a patient's face, I try to be as delicate, as gentle as possible, because the face is delicate. So to think that I would not want to cause that type of trauma to the face. I think that lips should be natural, beautiful, soft. But with the Hyaluron pen, if you're just blindly delivering a product, not knowing where it's going to go, it's going to be really hard, at least in my opinion, to create a aesthetic result that's nice and looks good, and one that's also safe. Because there's a lot of safety considerations. We have blood vessels in the lips that we try to avoid. Blood vessels deliver oxygen to your body, to your cells. So if the Hyaluron pen and shoot it in there, we're gonna compromise some of that lip tissue.
Ouch. And I've seen so many bad before and afters, like with vascular occlusions and just like so many bad things after using the pen. So please do not use it.
Right.
Seriously.
I say that with anything, it's your face. Always go to an experienced provider that you trust. You only have one face. So it's priceless.
Do patients come to you after I know down here in South Florida, there's kind of like a little black market, and some patients, some people that aren't licensed do injections and then it goes very wrong and then they reach out to providers to get help. Have that ever happened to you? Do people reach out to you?
It has happened, yes. I feel like it doesn't happen so much in New York City because it's just so regulated here. I also feel like people here, especially being in Manhattan, I find that, aesthetic treatments are self-pay, so a lot of times it does come with a cost. I feel like most of these patients, my patients and I'm on Fifth Avenue, so maybe that's also part of it too. I don't think these patients are looking for, like, too much of a discount. I think that they understand that, there is a price to pay, but it has happened. Like, we have seen poorly injected fillers. Most of the time when I ask the patients, like, how long ago it was, or like what was it placed, they don't know. And they'll admit it. They'll be like, listen, like, it was like 10 years ago, or it was from a Groupon. But, luckily none of the damage that I've seen is too bad. But yeah, it happens. And I think that's where they realize it's not worth it. So I think education is key. And I think a lot of people nowadays, if anything, there's too much education, because I have friends and, people messaging me saying that they're scared to get Botox because of all the things that they've seen go wrong on social media. And I'm like, oh, that's so rare, So we don't have too much of that problem here, but yeah, it has happened. And if it has, it's usually from something that what they did 10 years ago or many years ago.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Now, I market on all the bigger major platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And one of the biggest things I've been seeing lately is Facetune, or people like change your body, change your face, look a certain way. Do patients come in and say, "Hey, I want to look like this"? And what do you tell them when you physically cannot make them look like something that's not even real?
Yeah, that's a really tough one, because I think realistic expectations is a huge part of what we do. Like, trying to understand the expectations and to develop a partnership with them where you guys agree on a certain outcome. So if a patient is coming to me with, hey, I want to look like this, it's almost like you're telling me that you're trying to look different from what you are right here, right now. And it's a little bit of a red flag for me. I do try to, the way I try to explain it, with the education is our bodies are always changing, and our bodies also don't change overnight. Our bodies change very gradually in almost every aspect, things happen very gradually and slowly. So when we get treatments, and you want to look natural, you have to also expect your body to change gradually. When you do a treatment, you have to give it time to heal. You give it time to adjust. And at the same time, you have to give yourself grace. You have to be patient. A lot of things, if you want sustainability, it's like a marathon, it's not a sprint. And, I try to explain that to them, because I think that type of partnership is, especially if you want a patient who's going to stick around for a long time, you have to develop that partnership with them. So you have to develop a plan that you agree on. So you really have to try to get the patient to understand that I can't make you what you're not. I can only take what I have today and see what I can improve from there. I think that word improve is key for me. Patients always are like, oh, make me look beautiful, or is it going to fix this, or like they're thinking about the outcome, the end goal, and I'm trying to take them away from that. I'm like, don't look that far, just look at what you have right here and just look for improvement.
Yeah.
And I always will try to remind them of that, because they always want a set number. How many syringes, how many sessions? And I'm like, I really don't know, but each time you do it, you should get an improvement.
I like that. I like that a lot. Now, being on Fifth Avenue, I know first there's a lot of competition, but there's an elevated level of service, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, how do you kind of work with your patients to give them a white glove service? Or what are some things that you do to really give them that excellent extra mile?
When I see my patients, I always try to be intentional in everything I do. I think that if they are walking through our doors to see me in our practice, they're here because they want to look better. They want to feel better. A lot of times I understand that. So if they are trusting me to help them look and feel better about themselves, that's a big responsibility for me. I think that it's also, I'm grateful, that they trust me to do so. And it's really an honor. So I try to always remember that. I don't believe in doing things without intention. And if I do things unintentionally, I find that I'm not usually very happy, satisfied with what I'm doing. So it goes both ways. It's a double-edged sword. I know that if I can do my best and truly put my heart into doing what I can for my patient, I'll feel better and they'll feel better. And we both feel better, so it's a win-win for both situations. I always want my patients to leave feeling like they were in the right hands, that they leave feeling like they trust me, and also knowing that I would never do anything to like hurt them, but I'm just there to help them. And I think that people just want to know that they can trust somebody, and I think they want someone who's honest and authentic. We're nobody's perfect, and I'm not perfect. There's days I have good days, bad days, but I always try to be transparent and honest with my patient, and I try to be intentional when I talk to them. So, of course, I'm always going to try to deliver that top-notch service, being on Fifth Avenue. We have a whole protocol that I like to follow. I always try to come in prepared for work, feeling good. I start the day off with like affirmations. So I prepare myself to have a good day. But, of course, things happen. And even if it's not the best day and there's little like hiccups throughout the day, at that point, I can't really control much other than just do what I can with what I can at that very moment. So if I have to be transparent with my patient and apologize and, just tell them what's going on, what I can do today, that's the only thing I can do. And I think that that's the best thing I can do for them. But I do always try to treat everyone with intention. I try to imagine, I'm sure you hear this all the time. Like people are like, I want to treat them like my sister, brother, mother, father. But I want to treat people like how I would want to be treated and put myself in their shoes. And I ask myself, how would I want to feel if I were in their shoes? And that's kind of how I go about seeing my patients and delivering that service and that partnership, and that, that long-term relationship with them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's amazing. Like treating them how you want to be treated and giving them that excellent service, it really what makes them come back over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Like they feel like they're safe, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Now I know training is super important. Learning the latest technologies, learning the latest procedures, and really just being at the top of your game. What are some trainings that you attend or that you would recommend?
The best training I ever received was my training here working under a facial plastic surgeon. I do get a lot of questions from a lot of aspiring, like, injectors asking, where I trained, but training isn't like, it's not like a 2-day thing. Becoming an expert at your field, I think, requires a lot of mentorship. And I think that best way to learn is, again, this is my opinion, but from seeing and learning the facial anatomy. If you can do surgery and learn facial plastic surgeon, train under a surgeon who can teach anatomy, that's going to be the best training you'll ever receive, in my opinion.
For sure.
If you want to take a course, I think that doing research and finding a doctor that you look up to, doctor who you've been following, and you're like, I like their work, I like their values, I like their mission, I like what they're doing. If that doctor offers like special training, then which I think some of them do, then I would take their course. For example, like, if Dr. Manani here or offered a course, I would take it. I know some doctors that I've always been following for a really long time. I know like Dr. K out in LA. There are a few other good ones. Can't think of off the top of my head, but I know Dr. Casey, you know, like Julie Horn, like if she's offering like classes on lips, like she's someone her work I admire. Dr. Dolce down in Florida, you know, some of these doctors that I know that I love their work, I love what they do. Those would be the doctors that I would love to learn from. And then as far as courses, I've always wanted to go to like Europe and learn from that. I think that their courses are a lot more rigorous and intense. They're not so shy. I think we're a little conservative here in the US. But I would probably look into some training courses there.
Is it very important to learn a global perspective of aesthetics when practicing?
I think nowadays, because of the age of TikTok and Instagram, we are able to reach these, you know, the clientele like all across the world. And we actually have a lot of patients come in here internationally.
Wow.
Because of TikTok. They'll say, oh, we found you on TikTok or Instagram, which is really incredible. Like we never used to be able to do that so easily. So I think that now if you're trying to, you know, reach like patients on a global scale, I think that learning different cultures and you know, different perspectives of what, you know, like the Western versus Eastern ideal of beauty, very different. Eastern, Western trends, European trends, all these things are going to be really important for the overall practitioner. Like if you're trying to see patients from an international scale.
Now, for someone new getting in the industry, or even someone that's experienced in the industry, who are some people on social media or some people just in your personal life that you would suggest for people to follow to learn more?
You can follow me. Injector Bunny, I think I always learn from. And again, like those doctors that I mentioned before. It's a lot of stuff on social media nowadays.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that taking a course is always really nice, though, just because it's like you get to throw it on your resume. You know, it's like any job when you apply for it, you want as much on your resume as you can. If you really want the job, you know, there's no limit to how much you can add onto your resume. And then just learning from, again, plastic surgeons or anyone who's in this kind of aesthetic field, even cosmetic dermatology, try to stay, like, work in offices like that, I think will be really helpful. Because even if you just see it and can visualize and observe it, you already know so much more about Botox than the average person. I think, yeah, so getting your foot in the door in like some type of plastics, facial plastics, or, you know, cosmetic dermatology or laser clinic, I think is really helpful. Following some good pages, you know, really good providers. There's a lot more teaching going on nowadays, which I think is really great. I think injectors are creating a really good community. Now that we know that there's so much interest, you know, to enter that field, it's nice. You know, it's nice to have that there's so many people who want to study more aesthetic medicine.
Yeah, the market's growing and changing constantly. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
right now, I don't think there's enough injectors to honestly meet the demand. But by maybe the next 5 years, I think that will definitely change for sure.
And actually, yeah, so I went to a conference recently where they, you know, the amount of fillers that have been introduced into our market since the pandemic.
Yeah.
After Zoom, everyone now, you know, the aesthetic industry grew and companies started tapping into this billionaire dollar market. And we've already introduced so many new fillers in the last 2 years alone. They say by next year, there's going to just be like 35 more fillers that we can add to our portfolio, which is incredible, but also scary. Like at the same time, it's like overwhelming. But these are tools that we use. It's like if we're the artist, each filler like has its own profile. So the more tools we have, the better of a product, you know, an outcome we can create.
That's true. That's true. Have you heard about the new Botox Daxify?
Daxify, yes. Yeah, so many people are really excited about it. I'm personally a little like I don't know, I have to try it, you know, because if it lasts longer, well, what if there's like there's no reversal for Botox? It's great
Yeah.
that we have a longer lasting Botox, but it'd also be nice if we had a reversal because it would really suck. You know, like these treatments, most of my patients do fine, but any treatment is just a statistic. You know, statistically, it's like if there's that 1% of patients who might not do well with it, and if you're treating 1,000 patients, you know, 1% of those patients are not going to have a good effect, and it would suck for that 1% to be stuck with it for 6 months too. So that would, you know, I would be really upset to do that to somebody.
Could you imagine like a dropped eyebrow or something?
Yeah, I would be very upset. You know, I can't imagine. I wouldn't want that to happen to anybody. But so these are considerations also.
For sure, for sure. Well, thank you, Cindy, so much for sitting down with me and speaking more about the aesthetic industry in the
Thank
New
you.
York area. Please go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you and what you have planned next.
You can find me. I'm most active on Instagram. My handle is Cinmei, CINNMEI _RN. Or you can find me at drmanani.com. That's drmanani.com. I'm on 61st and 5th Avenue. Really, really beautiful area next to Central Park. So can't miss it.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much. And until next time, bye.
Thank you. Bye. Take care.